What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the All About How podcast from growingau.com. I am your host, John Knott, and this is going to be an awesome day 5 of our podcasting 365-day experiment where, as you already know, I am sure we are posting a podcast every single day for a year to answer the question, does more content equal more followers? I look forward to the day where we don't even have to say that anymore just because it's so widely known, and honestly, we're going to do a little bit of that today. Try to grow that a little bit here in the very beginning of this podcast. I'm going to say 2 things quickly. Number 1, this podcast is going to be a little bit longer than normal because we have the storage space to do that this month. That's technical stuff you don't got to worry about. Number 2, I have a call to action for you in the beginning of this episode. That is right. We have a call to action. Here's what I need you to do, okay? I need you to send me an email, and that email is going to be going to podcast@growingau.com. That's podcast, podcast, at growingau.com, obviously. So here's what I need you to do when you send me that email, and I have a reason for all of this. The reason I want you to send me that email is I want you to send us an idea. Send us an idea to the show that you think we need to talk about. That idea could be related to life. That can be related to personal growth, self-development, social media marketing, business, entrepreneurship, all the stuff that we talk about, success strategies, a book you want us to read, something you want us to review, something you want to take a look at. All these types of things can be reviewed, talked about, and discussed on the All About How podcast. And the reason that I want you to send us that email to podcast@growingau.com is because what I want to find out, and this is very important, I want to find out where we're getting a lot of our listeners from. Now, I know that I can look statistically on different sites and stuff like that, but what I want you to do is when you send us that email, I want you to put up top, be like, hey, this is so-and-so reaching out to you today from... Maybe you're listening on Apple Podcasts, maybe you're listening on Spotify, maybe you're listening on Stitcher, maybe you're listening on Pocket Cast or Google Play, or maybe you're actually just coming at us from YouTube. Wherever it is you're coming from, I want you to go ahead and put that on your email so we know where you're coming from and where you're joining us in this awesome podcasting space. When you give us the idea that you would like to hear discussed on the show, go ahead, tell us where you're coming from. Also, give us a little bit of information of an account you would like us to shout out so that we can let people know and give credit where credit is due regarding that show. Speaking of giving credit where credit is due, I got to give some credit for today's show. It's going to be inspired by the Tim Ferris Show, specifically episode 395, Jocko Takeover, obviously referring to Jocko Willink, the Navy SEAL, and at this point, I would say inspiration and life coach to many. Really, really awesome guy. If you don't know who he is, definitely go check him out. Same with Tim Ferris. If you don't know what he is, wrote books like Tribe of Mentors, probably the most famous, The 4-Hour Workweek, The 4-Hour Chef, The 4-Hour Body, a lot of bestsellers there. Tim Ferris, really exceptional guy with an incredibly exceptional podcast. So they both have podcasts. They will be linked down below to the Tim Ferris Show and Jocko's podcast as well. They have definitely inspired me to do podcasting. So I want to talk about something that was spoken in that episode 395 of the Tim Ferris Show. Now, to be fair, Tim Ferris is not actually on that episode. Jocko comes on and kind of takes over an episode for Tim. I believe he was out at some sort of conference or doing something that he couldn't be there. So what are they talking about in that episode? Well, truthfully, a lot of things and too much for us to cover in this episode. However, the one thing that they talk about that I really want to discuss is the idea of quitting tactically to win strategically. And he's talking about this from obviously a Navy SEAL training background. He talks about you're in boot camp, you're training with the Navy SEALs, and kind of the motto is never quit, never quit, never quit, never quit. And he says once you get into the field, that's something you have to let go really quickly. And something that will get you through the training and it builds a strong mentality, but you have to know when to quit. And I found this to be a really, really interesting, I guess, ideology, mainly because I think we see a lot of people and a lot of businesses, a lot of just individuals who have an idea, they think the idea is going to work, and they put so much time and effort into it, and it just simply doesn't work out. And if you might remember a couple days ago, we posted our How to Restart Your Brand, Reiterate, that type of thing. I think that relates into this, is realizing when something's not working and is it time to quit. Now, he talks about the ability to say, okay, I need to stop what I'm doing right now. I need to quit. I need to do a tactical retreat, but I'm going to place myself in a far better position to win strategically, win in that long game, than if I were to simply just continue doing what it is I've been doing all along. And I got to be honest, I really, really do agree with that mindset and with that ideology. I think it makes a lot of sense. So what I want to kind of talk about here is talk about my experience with that, talking about how we can apply it to what it is we're doing and kind of review that. You know, one of the things we talk about reviewing on the show are success strategies of the successful and the go-tos of the greats, as we've worded it before. So this is definitely one of those go-tos and success strategies. Let's just take a look at this here. Quitting tactically to win strategically. One thing that Jocko Willink, really explained it as, you have a young Navy SEAL commander coming out of boot camp, doing a training mission or whatever, and things change. Things change dramatically. Let's talk about being in the field as a soldier. Now, this is something I do not have firsthand experience with, so I am talking somewhat from theory here. If I do get some things wrong, please do forgive that. Simply, okay, you're in the field as a soldier, maybe you're a commander, you're a leading officer, whatever it might be. You have a plan. All of a sudden, weather changes. All of a sudden, the terrain is not what you planned for. All of a sudden, the resistance that you're getting in a combat environment increases dramatically. Things change very quickly, and you need to be able to adjust your plan accordingly. And something that Jocko talks about is you have these young Navy SEALs commander coming out with this never quit mentality. Something dramatically changes that's going to make it so that their plan's not going to work, but they're not willing to drop that plan to simply find a better way of doing things because they have the mentality to never quit. Jocko talks about it in a simple way of, if you look at, okay, we're going to take this hill that is heavily defended by soldiers. Do we need to take this hill? Because we're going to lose, let's say, 60% of our fighting force taking this hill? Or can we find a more strategic way? Can we retreat from this hill, quit tactically, find a more strategic way to do this? Maybe that's via airstrike. Maybe that's via other type of military accoutrement. And can we find a better way to do this? Or can we simply go around the hill? Do we have to take this hill to win the war? It's kind of like picking the hills worth dying for type thing. I'm sure you've probably heard that saying. I think this kind of applies here, of understanding that, okay, we can do this, but we're going to lose 80% of our available resources in doing this. And this can now, we're relating it a little more back to business. We can, do this idea, we can do this campaign, whatever it might be, and we're going to lose 80% of our available funding and resources trying to do this, or we can find a more strategic way to do it, quit tactically, quit what we're doing because it's not working, and find the better way to do it to win in the long run. And I want to somewhat relate this now back to business, because I think what Jocko talks about is very good, and I would recommend going and listening to that podcast. Again, that's episode 395 of the Tim Ferris Show to hear more about it. But let's take a look at this from another perspective here, from the business perspective. I've had multiple experiences in the past as a young kid. We're talking 8th grade through mid-high school of different business ideas that I have tried to run with, and for various reasons or another, they didn't work out. And I would always get somewhat frustrated when thinking about those, because I think to myself, man, I want to be an entrepreneur, but these didn't work out because we stopped, or someone left, or we didn't have the money, or I didn't have the experience, I didn't know what questions to ask, like all these excuse mindsets and stuff like that. And it used to really bother me in thinking about, if those didn't work out, how's anything going to work out now? Well, I think we have to look at it from the perspective of Jocko Willink here, and I'm going to tell you what, I appreciate this. I really do. So if we're looking at it from his perspective, and if he's saying, we're going to quit tactically to win strategically, then simply all I did, like for example, when certain things didn't work out and we stopped moving with them. One example is at one point we were going to do a paper business, and that didn't quite work out. Maybe we saw too many episodes of The Office or something like that. But long story short, it didn't work out. So because we just found that obviously everything that we were going to need to do in order to make it work was something that we did not feel we had the ability to do at our age and our monetary stature. So we decided to stop. So is quitting that bad, or is quitting that simply quitting tactically to win strategically? Because strategically, the goal has always been the same: be a successful entrepreneur. Leaving on some of those other unlikely to be successful ventures, in my personal opinion, is going to increase the opportunity to become a successful entrepreneur, because it's going to give me the freedom to see where these successful ideas and opportunities are coming down the line. One of them, for example, being growingau.com, or 2 Leaks that we're also working on, and various other adventures and ideas. So how does that apply to everybody else? I think we all find and see ourselves in different positions, be that business positions, be that, maybe we're in school, maybe that's, we're freelancing, maybe that's we're in a career, and we're thinking like, should I leave this job that I hate? I don't want to quit on it though. Should I stop this business that is eating my money away? It's not working, and I don't see the way for me to make it work. What can I do to effectively increase my ability to be successful with the things that aren't working. Maybe it's, oh my gosh, there's this book I've been working on for years. It's just not going, and a whole bunch of different aspects. I don't need to rattle off the examples. I'm sure that if you're listening to this at this point, you are understanding what I'm talking about, and you have the examples in your life that relate to this. So, in an effort to be cathartic, simply understanding the fact that it is going to be okay to remove yourself from that, we'll say, unsuccessful situation with the intention of coming back stronger to win strategically. I think the book example is very easy to run with here. You want to be a successful author, but the book that you've been working on for 2 years is not getting picked up. It's not great as far as the eyes of the publishers are concerned. You might be thinking, well, some of the best books of all time are not picked up and I can keep pushing it. You can, and I think that's something you have to weigh for yourself. You have to weigh how much do you know that this is going to happen, and that's where you have to, determine, is quitting tactically to win strategically what I need to do here, or am I just simply maybe quitting the approach I'm taking to getting published in an effort to win strategically, which of course would be to be a successful author. Same thing with business. This business isn't working. It's eating up all my money. I'm not getting any traction, yada, yada, yada. Do I now give up to go and win somewhere else to win strategically and being a successful entrepreneur? Maybe it's I want to have a successful career in finance, but the job I'm at is a dead-end job with no hope of movement in a very unprogressive company as far as moving into the future is concerned. So do I just keep pushing here because I don't want to quit, or do I quit this job and find the place I need to be to win tactically and being successful in my financial career? All questions that have to be asked. But I think what it comes down to here, and the reason that his philosophy on this helped me so much and that it stuck out to me, was because it allows us to take some of that past pressure off ourselves. It allows us to kind of step back and say to ourselves, okay, instead of freaking out and thinking like, I'm a failure, it didn't work, crap, I messed up, I'm not as good, I'm what everybody said. It allows you to get out of the past. It allows you to stop living this whole victim narrative of it didn't work out and start thinking, okay, this one didn't work out. How does the next one work out? I mean, let's look at Thomas Edison. He figured out 10,000 ways not to make a light bulb just to figure out the one way to do it. But those 10,000 ways are no less valuable in the overall success strategy than the one successful way, because he found the other 10,000 ways that it doesn't work. And he had to do that to find the one way that does work. So whatever your philosophy is, finding all the ways that it's not going to work is the only way that you're actually going to find the way that it's going to work for you. And I think that's what Jocko is talking about here. It applies to Thomas Edison. He quit 10,000 times in an effort to win strategically. He quit tactically on 10,000 versions of the light bulb to win strategically on the one. I mean, come on. That right there, I think, is the embodiment of what Jocko Willink is saying in this podcast. It's okay to quit tactically to win in the long run. I love it. I think it helps a lot of us get over. It helps me. I can't say it for a lot of us, but it helps me get over the past a little bit and realize that, just move forward. Get over it, pick yourself up, and keep moving. So I think it's a great thing. I think understanding that we need to stop being so hard on ourselves. Oh no, I got to make this work. It's going to happen. I know it's going to happen. Maybe it won't. And maybe maybe you already know that, but you feel that for whatever reason you can't quit because of what people are going to think and what people are going to say and what it means about me. It doesn't mean anything about you. It just means that you're freaking smart. It means that you're smart and you're able to realize that what you're doing is not working. So you're going to, instead of being dumb and just pumping more into it, you know when to say enough's enough, time to try something new. That's just smart. So my personal opinion, all of this, and Jocko's personal opinion, and I think he's a very reputable guy. I think he should come over and do a takeover on this podcast. Jocko Willink needs to come over and do a takeover on this podcast on all about how from growingau.com. If you are listening to this at this point at the end of the episode, you need to snap him, send him a tweet, Instagram, DM, whatever you got to do. Get him onto this podcast. We need to at him on Twitter, at him on Instagram, at him on Facebook, send him a letter if that's what you're into. we need to get Jocko Willink to come over and take over the All About How podcast for a day. Talk about the value that we would get from that. That would be really, really incredible. Who knows? The day may come. Actually, I do know. The day is going to come. We're going to make it happen. Jocko Willink, we're coming for you at All About How. We want you to get on here and talk to you. So all that to say, guys, appreciate listening through. As you saw, we went a little bit longer today. Kind of liked it. I like that we were able to flesh this out a little bit more. If you have not listened to the other 4 days of our podcast in our 365 experiment, they're on all of your podcasting platforms. Check them out. YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever it is you listen to podcasts, they are there. Check out growingau.com for more, for blog posts, other information, staying up to date on what's going on, things like that. And remember, the call to action, email us at podcast@growingau.com to let us know what it is we need to talk about and let us know where you're listening. Guys, I appreciate you being here today. This has been the All About How podcast from growingau.com. I was your host, John Knott. Love you guys. Thanks for listening again today. Hope you have a very highly successful day. Stay safe, stay successful, stay strategic, and we'll catch you in the next one. This has been All About How.